Hello and welcome to another episode of Starside Chats. I'm one of your hosts, Zach Owens, and joining me as always is Aaron Capo.
Hello.
So what's going on this week? I feel like the big news is maybe the Starfield thing, and then we got like a final Super Mario Brothers movie trailer.
Couple other little things happening, which we'll talk about. But yeah, I guess let's get into it. The biggest news is Starfield, which you had long speculated that it was going to get delayed to the fall again, and you were correct. They put out a video that was basically like a new trailer, but also it's like a minute-long trailer, and then it cuts to Todd Howard being like, "Hey guys, what's going on? Here I am, and this is what's happening. We are going to be delaying it until September, what is it? September 6th, I want to say.
Yeah.
But as we prepare for that, we're going to have a Starfield Direct. So Xbox is having their own press conference on June 11th, but then directly following that press conference, separate from that press conference, we're going to have a Starfield Direct that's solely based on Starfield. We're going to talk all about it. We're going to go into deep detail. It's going to be great. Probably that's when pre-orders are going to go live, is what I speculate. But look forward to that, I guess. So we're probably not going to hear anything else about Starfield until June 11th. But I guess they got some more work to do on it. What do you think?
I mean, I feel like at this point, a delay is good because I would much rather them have more time. Like, maybe some of this is like, I've been watching that PsychOdyssey thing, and they were like, I mean, there was stuff going on with them, and it was a very troubled and difficult like development cycle for that game, and they like constantly just needed like more and more time to work on it, and it always like would prove to be like very good for them to like be able to push it back a little bit more. And of course that game turned out to be very good, and I liked it quite a bit. And so I just like, don't rush it out. Also, I do like, speculation would be that they had maybe even initially planned on like launching it sometime in the same month as Tears of the Kingdom, but then they found out when that game was coming out, and they were like, ooh, good thing we didn't like give a specific date when we said this. And so they were like, okay, well, we should delay it based on that alone, but also probably they could use more time. So
now the video it's an interesting watch. There's like some good snippets you can cut out of it, where not even during the like gameplay part of it, but when Todd Howard is talking, in the background there are people, quote unquote, play testing Starfield. But you can get some cool glimpses of things, even though it's out of focus and in the background. You a little bit can see like the system they have for like picking up inventory and like swapping things out. It's interesting to look at that and speculate on stuff. But I mean, I'm also pro this. I'm pro any sort of delay if they need to make it better. I think that it's not going to be like a live service game, but I do think for a little while at least it is going to be a living game, because I think they're going to be pushing out updates to this thing probably on day one and going forward. I think it's going to be playable, but I have a fear that they are going to need to do some heavy patching, because I feel like it's going to come in extremely hot on September 6th.
Yeah, I'm looking at the background footage like you were just talking about, and it is like very cool to see like them swapping back and forth between like third person and first person. And it looks, I mean, it's from a distance, so you don't get a really good sense of it, but it does seem like it's running pretty smoothly.
I think so too.
So that is encouraging, just to like be able to see some of the footage of like actual gameplay, because I feel like we've not seen a ton of that. And for whatever reason, like the stuff they showed off last year during the summer was like, it seemed a little bit choppier, and maybe that's just some of it is like you're watching a recording of a stream that's been uploaded to YouTube, and it's just like there's all this compression that's happening, and so it's not able to look like it's running at as smooth a frame rate as it probably will once it's like on your actual hardware.
Yeah.
But just to like see it in the background there, it does look like it's maybe running a little bit smoother than the stuff we saw last year. So that's good.
We'll be Keeping it tuned to the Starfield dial as we count down to June 11th. What a day that will be. What day of the week is June 11th, actually? That's a good question to ask.
June
11th is a Sunday. Okay, they usually do it on Sunday, so that makes sense. It's going to be a good day, I think, because I would assume that Microsoft the last couple of years has done a really good job at their like fake E3 whatever presentations. So I would bet that this year is going to be no different. Xbox is going to have a real banger show, immediately followed by what we all want to see is like a 40-minute Starfield deep dive. So that's going to be a great day.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to think about is what Xbox could have to show.
Yeah.
Given that they're not going to be showing Starfield.
It's a good question. I wonder if they'll have more Bethesda stuff. I mean, they own Bethesda, so they could have stuff in their main feed and just leave Starfield for this separate thing. But
well, so I'm thinking specifically about Obsidian because I know they've got several projects in the works that we've basically not seen anything of.
Yeah,
and I wonder if they'll like show some Avowed or the next Outer Worlds game.
Avowed would be very interesting. We've seen very little of that, and I think that has the potential to be a real big one. So yeah, it's crazy. Have we only seen one trailer for Avowed that one time when they announced it?
Yeah, it was like a long time ago, and I feel like there was only the briefest glimpse of that. So I'm very curious to find out more about that game. And then what else could they have? I mean, it could be a shadow drop for Silksong, but
I don't know.
You just never know.
I'm so curious. Like, it's crazy how radio sound. We were texting about this earlier this week. Like, the Team Cherry has said nothing. The last thing they did, the last time that the Team Cherry Twitter account did anything was a couple weeks ago. And previous to a couple weeks ago, it hadn't done anything in a while. But a couple weeks ago, it retweeted like, "Hey, Fangamer has these like resin figures available to buy again." And that's it. And then as far as Silksong, we haven't really gotten any like confirmed news on it for a super long time. The closest thing we have to that is one of the playtesters who is part of the Silksong Discord put a thing after there was that one press conference where everyone thought for sure we were going to get Silksong stuff and we didn't. He posted in the Discord like, "Hey guys, game is great. We're still working on it. I can't wait for you guys to play it, but it is still actively being worked on." He's not even really like an official Team Cherry source. He's just like a guy that's playtesting it. So I don't know. It's like I really expected us to get something in February, and we did not. So who knows? Maybe that's going to be delayed as well, but I hope it isn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, at this point, if it's delayed, we wouldn't know the difference, but...
True.
Yeah, it could be a fall release as well, which would be cool. But
as long as it doesn't release on May 12th, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, that would be crazy. I remember we speculated at one point, like, what if Silksong, Tears of the Kingdom, and Starfield all come out on the same day?
The Nexus. That would be insane.
Yeah, that would never happen, but it would be crazy if it did.
Well, let's talk about... So you own a PS5 currently.
I do.
There's been a firmware update on it.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't like super exciting. Like firmware updates are never that exciting, but they did add Discord voice chat, which is kind of cool. That was sort of the big news out of it.
It's a big step forward as far as like cross-platform stuff, because playing multiplayer stuff on Nintendo Switch is awful. Mm-hmm. But I've done it one time. One time I like went to go check out my friend's island when everybody was playing Animal Crossing. And we hopped on Discord to do that because we didn't want to deal with Nintendo's weird stuff. And similarly, one time I tried to play I played Minecraft on my PS4 and tried to connect with my girlfriend who was playing on a computer, which kind of worked, but like the voice chat just like did not, like, because there previously wasn't a way to do like great voice chat between platforms. But this is great. I think Discord also works on Xbox, doesn't it?
You might be right. Yeah, because I know like the problem is there's a lot of games that are like cross-platform now. So you could be playing on like a PS5 and playing with someone on like a PC or even a Switch or something like that. But you would like you could chat with them, but then you're just like in the chat with literally everyone else. So like everybody has to hear you, or So this gives you sort of a way to do cross-platform chat without just being in the room where everybody else can hear you. So yeah, very good.
Very cool
to have.
And then you also have, speaking of PlayStation, you've posted an article about how possibly we'll get the PS6 in 2027, a mere 4 years away.
Yeah, so I mean, you assume that probably every like 5 to 7 years is like a decent like upgrade cycle for most consoles, and like that would put it at around 7 years for the life cycle of the PS5. There was some sort of leaked documentation, I think, that somebody pulled and said that they intend to release the PS6 sometime in 2027. So we still got like a good long time here for the PS5.
Yeah.
But I mean, who knows at this point? Like, what's the world going to be like in 2027? Who can say? But that would probably put it at around like a normal console life cycle. And we could even get like a PS5 Pro here in the next year or two. So who knows?
I wouldn't mind a PS5 Slim, to be honest. I find the wings on it to be a little... I have like a place I would like to put a PS5, I think, but it's like I don't think I could fit a PS5 into that space with the current design of it.
It's true. They do typically do like slim consoles, and then maybe you'll get like a mid-cycle refresh of like a Pro variant.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't even know what a Pro variant would bring to the table.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's already cutting edge.
Other than like maybe you can better do like high frame rate stuff without having to sacrifice like resolution and like ray tracing and stuff like that. But who knows?
Does the PS5 have native ray tracing?
I think typically if you want stuff like that, you have to like opt into like graphics mode and like the ray tracing mode, and that typically will bump you down to like 30 frames.
Because I could see them, I could see Xbox being like, this is the Xbox Series X, no, Series RTX, where it's like fully made to do RTX stuff, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
RTX seems to have come and gone a little bit.
I know they PlayStation also like added what was that, VRR or something like that.
Yeah,
where it's like better for variable refresh rate monitors that you might be using. So I mean, people were into that when that happened. So I mean, they're making little improvements along the way, even without having to ship new hardware. So I don't know. I don't know that they could possibly have like, the 4K resolution with ray tracing, but also be able to do like 60 plus frames a second. So that
seems like a PS6 kind of thing.
Yeah, that does seem like the stuff that you're waiting for on PlayStation 6. But we might be at like 8K TVs by then. Who knows?
It's true. That's a good point. Who knows what TVs will look like in 2027?
Exactly. So speaking of delays, we kind of already... I was
just going to say, speaking of delays.
We already kind of had a delay talking about with Starfield, but there was another one that came out this last week. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has been delayed again. But Jason Schreier says this is not because of people being down on that last sort of reveal trailer they had, where they showed a bunch of gameplay. This is more of like fine tuning and just giving them more time to polish things as opposed to like overhaul the core gameplay, which I think is maybe what people actually want to happen. But yeah, you and I are not super interested in this.
Yeah, but I can't say I care. I also honestly forgot it was delayed the first time.
Yeah, I mean, every game is delayed. But,
yeah.
But I think the big question was when people saw this, it was like, oh, does that mean they're like taking fan feedback after that last trailer and they're gonna like make some big changes? And most likely that is not the case. So what did people not like about it? That it was too like up in the air. Everything was like basically juggling act where everything was like flying around. Yeah, I mean, there were complaints about because it was all a lot of like shoot at the purple glowy bits, and it was a lot of like, here's this like famous comic book character wield his special weapon, a shotgun, and it was like gear score and like all these buzzwords for like game as service things that people don't want to hear typically.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of those kind of complaints. But like at this point, like there's not.
Oh, I do remember. This is the one where they came out and they were like, you have to have an internet connection to play it, right?
Oh yeah. There was that part too. I mean, it's basically a Destiny but starring the Suicide Squad, which I think again nobody wants, especially like for this kind of game. Like they tried that with Avengers, like. A Destiny like makes sense if you are building like something where people can create their own characters, but like nobody wants, oh, you have Captain America, but we're gonna have to find like interesting drops for you, so maybe you get like a different outfit, like, or you get like this pair of Captain America boots that make you move a little bit faster or kick a little bit harder. Like it doesn't seem like it lends itself to the Destiny formula, but they're trying to do it anyway, but just because of how potentially profitable that style of game can be. But anyway, Jason Schreier was saying, no, they're not going to overhaul core gameplay stuff. This is mainly to get out of the window of Zelda, Diablo, and Final Fantasy, and to just give them a little bit more time to polish things.
That's smart. I mean, if it's going to sell anything, it needs to be far away from something massive like Zelda.
Yeah. Like, dropping alongside those 3 games in particular would not do well for it. I feel like that's what happened with, what was that other DC comic book game that was not a game as service, but seemed like maybe it was? I already forget the name of it.
Oh, was it Gotham Knights?
Yeah, Gotham Knights. I feel like that game also dropped in like a fairly crowded window, but maybe I'm misremembering. Either way, definitely you don't want to drop any time near Zelda for sure. But yeah.
It was Mario Day yesterday as we're recording this, and they released the final trailer for the Super Mario Brothers movie.
The final Mario, as they called it.
What did you think of this trailer?
I mean, I will watch this movie for sure. The thing that stood out to me, even more so than the trailer itself, was that Miyamoto was like, "Hey, guess what? If you're in New York, stop by our shop, our Nintendo store, and check out these boots that we made that are like Mario's boots." It was like, what? But apparently that's the thing. They made some lifelike Mario boots that you can go look at if you're in New York, which was the weirdest part about it.
Here's some crazy news. I think I'm going to be going to New York in April.
Yeah, go check out the boots if they're still around.
I might go to the Nintendo store, and if I do, I'll report back.
If I went to New York and it was possible for me to stop by, I would definitely check out a Nintendo store, not necessarily for the boots, but just to like stop at like, what's a Nintendo store like?
I'm interested to see. But what did you think of this trailer?
I mean, I think it looks solid. Like, this is gonna be, I think it's gonna be a fun movie, probably. Like, I
think so too.
I have long sort of been of the opinion that like, yeah, we were like, this is so dumb, this voice cast, like, what's going on here? And I still don't like it, but like, I still continue to be a little bit of the opinion that like, it's going to be weird at first, but like once you get into it and it gets going, you're going to stop thinking about it. And it'll probably be fine.
We still haven't seen a ton of Mario talking, I feel like. Like there's, in this trailer, there's a little bit where he's... I think that's by design. There's a part in this trailer where you can kind of hear him saying like, "I'll do anything, my brother." But we haven't gotten a long, like, it's all being narrated by like Peach or Bowser or someone else. And I wonder if it is by design. I wonder if they are like, oh man, is this like kind of a weak performance by Chris Pratt? Or maybe it's a great performance and they're going to be like, man, we're saving this, and people are going to be blown away by it when they get in the theaters.
I do think that it would be smart of them to have fewer lines of dialogue for most of these characters than...
That's probably true.
Yeah. I don't know. But
I wonder, so here's the other big question, is how does this movie end? Because clearly this is a money-making gold mine. And if it does well, Nintendo and Illumination are going to want sequels. And I'm so curious to see what direction they go in. If they stick to Mario, if like maybe Rosalina comes in at the end of this is maybe the final scene, or if they like go crazy and like Star Fox shows up or something, or like Kirby shows up.
Yeah.
I don't know what could happen, but I want them to go crazy. I want them to like go full cinematic universe on this, but I don't know what's going to happen at the end.
Yeah, we don't know if that's their intention with this, but yeah, it would be cool if they just like have some sort of like thing that happens towards the end of it that's like a tease for whatever the next movie is going to be.
I think that'll definitely happen. I think it's going to have two ending scenes, like how movies all have two now. So like the first one is going to be the crazy thing where like Rosalina shows up or Cappy shows up. Wouldn't that be crazy if like he's like, oh, look at this box. What's in this box? And it's like a hat and then it has eyes or something. Wouldn't that be crazy? But then the final thing is just going to be a joke where it's like cut back to a character we saw early on. Let's see what they're still doing. Oh, they're still like stuck on this fence or something. And there's like a big laugh line or something. But there's definitely going to be, I think they would be crazy not to do something at the very end that sets up a next movie, similar to how the first Sonic movie at the very end set up like Tails coming through and being like, oh man, where's Sonic? And on Sonic 2, if you haven't seen it, at the very end, they queue up what's going to be the third Sonic movie. I feel like there's no way they don't do something crazy at the end, and I think it has the potential to be very fun and cool.
So speaking of like what this trailer could, or not trailer, but the movie could mean for like future things, like what do you think the impact will be on games moving forward? Do you think like, so we see in the trailer Donkey Kong actually uses a fire flower and gains like fire ability. Do you think like a future Donkey Kong game could exist where he has access to like Mario upgrades of some sort?
I would love that. I think that is definitely possible.
I think it would be interesting for sure. I almost wonder if there's like not necessarily a Super Mario Brothers the movie, the game, but like what if they did do some sort of like Super Mario 3D World style game where like Donkey Kong and some of these other characters were just in the cast of characters that you could play as. That would be cool. I think that would be very interesting. And then also like the Mario Kart stuff that you definitely see a lot of later in this thing. Like, is there going to be like a DLC pack for Super Mario or Mario Kart 8 Deluxe that involves like some of these crazy karts that you're seeing that almost look like pod racers from Star Wars? Well, they have the giant engines on them. And
there was not a leak, but basically the latest wave of like courses came out or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they realized that they're adding like 5 new racers to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So it could be something from the movie where they reveal like, hey, guess what? These things from the movie are going to be in the next wave of like DLC, or I don't know what wave we're on. If we're like reaching the end of content for Mario Kart, I forget where we're at.
I thought it was wave 4, but I don't remember how many waves there are going to be.
I think there are a lot of waves, but I don't know. I'm into this.
I do think that the next Mario Kart, like Mario Kart 9, is going to be like a launch title for the next console they have.
That could be.
And that could be the game that really sees the like Mario movie tie-ins even more so than the DLC.
We got that article, man, forever ago. That was like Mario Kart 9 is in development and it's going to have a new twist.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that means. And there was no There was no more information about it.
No information on what that twist would be.
Yeah, I mean, we had interesting Mario Karts in the past. We had Double Dash, which I think is the biggest departure from things.
Which I think a lot of people would love that to come back, but obviously that wouldn't be a new twist. That would just be a return to an older style of Mario Kart game.
I'm interested to see. I played a bunch of Mario Kart right when it came out, but I never got any of the DLCs.
I am curious to check out the new DLC. What I really think they need is like, even if the new twist on Mario Kart ends up being a more like fully fleshed out like online mode where there's like unlocks and stuff that makes you like feel rewarded for continuing to play. Like, if they kind of went like sort of full Call of Duty on it, where like the online stuff is just this like really expansive like set of upgrades and interesting things to sort of keep you locked in and wanting one more race, that kind of thing, I would be into it, to be honest. Like, maybe people don't want that or don't want to hear that because Call of Duty kind of has its own sort of bad reputation at this point. But I think like right now I don't have a lot of interest in playing Mario Kart Online, but if there was some sort of like progression system that was happening, I might be more interested in playing it.
I would agree with that. I think, man, what they really need to do with their next console is just like figure out how the internet works.
Yeah.
Because that's like their weakest part of it. Like all of their multiplayer stuff pretty much is designed to be couch co-op, which is great. And that you get 2 controllers with the console and it makes sense. But they haven't really stepped out into like the modern age. They did some phone games that were somewhat well received, like Mario Run. I think people liked, and I think they even made a Mario Kart phone game, but I never checked it out. But if their next game, I have famously said that their next console is going to fold in some way. That's my main prediction. Mm-hmm. But if their next console is also just like fully stepping forward into the online world in some way, I think that would be a very cool move.
Yeah, if it was just a more powerful version of the Switch, but their emphasis was on like online connectivity and like making their games more interesting for online stuff.
What if every console had like a cell card in it, so it like had 4G?
That would be crazy. 5G.
Well, you can't get 5G everywhere, but yeah, I mean 5G would be the goal.
I mean, I don't think they could do that because you'd have to start paying for, and nobody wants that. But I just think they need to like put more of an emphasis on online stuff and
That's the money though. Like, what if they're like Nintendo Online? Here are all these things you get. You get these old classic games. When you buy the new console, you have to subscribe to like Nintendo World Online, where you get all these benefits, but also you're paying for the monthly fee of being constantly online. It's basically like having a phone, but it's like a game console. It's an they could do this because it sounds dumb. They could, it could be a phone/console hybrid where you don't really use it as a phone, but it has constant internet connectivity. I could see that.
Yeah, I mean, I really just want them to have a more powerful version of the Switch where that's what they also need, basically the same thing they have now, and like you can stay subbed to Nintendo Online and all of the like NES, Super NES, Nintendo 64, and like the Game Boy stuff. All of that is still there and still playable, and maybe they add like GameCube and like Wii stuff or something like that, but they just like going forward with new games, there's like a little bit more of an emphasis put on like make an online mode that's interesting and that makes people want to keep coming back to it, as opposed to like, yeah, you can play it online, but it's not really any different from just playing couch co-op.
Here's my 12-digit friend code.
Yeah. And they like solve the whole like online chat stuff to make it more like PSN and Xbox Live. But
I'm curious to see. I mean, the rumor was that they were going to try to launch a new Switch, but then the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, they've got ideas, and I would hope that they've used this time where they aren't releasing it to, like, polish those ideas and make them even more interesting. So, who knows when we're going to get any kind of information about that.
It's a little bit like I think you can liken it a little bit to like the controller, where design wise, they went through so many different iterations from console to console. And we basically settled on, we have a good design, a good layout, and all they have to do is like tweak little things here and there and make like little iterative design updates to make it slightly better. And maybe that's where we're at in terms of consoles, for especially for Nintendo, where they do sort of switch it up in a big way every time. So maybe they've found their thing, because they've consolidated the mobile market and the console, like home console market, so they don't have to have two different devices now. And so I think, you know, having that solved and still being able to do some degree of like motion controls and that kind of thing, hopefully they don't like try to reinvent the wheel again next time, because I feel like that could be like a Wii U flop type of a thing. So
yeah, hopefully the Wii U has made them trigger shy about taking big swings when they know they have something successful.
And the thing is, it wasn't even that big a swing. It was, in some ways, it was just like a worse version of what they did with the Switch. And maybe they just learned that like trying to make the sort of, where in the mobile space they had a dual screen thing, and they just tried to make that the home console thing too, and it didn't work. But they realized from that like the best aspect of that was being able to play it on TV or mobile and not having to like look at both at the same time. So
I still sometimes think about how it would have been. This is possible to do. It's possible to play Breath of the Wild on a Wii U, and it has like, that's how it was supposed to be played originally, but then it took too long to develop. But I mean, it has that integration where you can have the controller with the screen and look down at it. And like, I think it has your inventory, or it has like some functionality that's built in. But
yeah,
I think the better experience is to play it on Switch, obviously. But I'm so interested in, I've never done any research on like what kind of functionality you get with that second screen, but
that's a good question, actually. I never thought about it before.
Should we move on to Capcom Spotlight Showcase, a thing I didn't know happened?
Yeah, so this last week there was also, it was not particularly interesting. It was basically stuff we already knew about, but there was like a little bit of new details added. So like RE4 we know is coming out. There's just like a demo that's available now.
I did see people playing this demo, but I didn't know it was related to a showcase.
Yeah, they just unveiled it was like, here's a demo, go play it. And people were excited about it because people love RE4. They also showed some Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection stuff, and they announced that Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, the big DLC for Monster Hunter Rise, is coming to Xbox and PS5 in April. They showed some Ghost Trick, which I don't know anything about, but apparently that's like a game that's been around and people liked it, and they're kind of excited about it. And then Exo Primal.
Yes, I did actually. I saw a trailer for this, and I didn't know it was related to any sort of spotlight, but
yeah.
What do you think of this?
It's weird. I don't really know what this game is, but I'm a little bit curious. So it is getting an open beta test that's going to run from March 17th through the 19th, and it's going to be cross-platform. But they also have revealed the release date for July 14th, and it is coming to Game Pass. So this is a thing that I will be able to check out. I guess since it's an open beta test, it won't matter what platform you're playing it on, and you can just download it and try it. But
so for those who haven't seen the footage, it's like you're in robot suits and you're fighting dinosaurs, and it's the future.
Yeah. And it seems like it's just like a third-person action game where you're just like, I guess, online co-op, defeating big waves of like dinosaurs.
You know what it reminded me of is weird. Those Earth Defense Force games. Have you ever seen those?
Oh yeah.
Where there's like
I never
giant
played
ants
any
all
of
over
them,
the place.
Yeah.
It seemed like that to me, but with a little more polish and like maybe a little bit more going on.
Yeah. So this is like a potentially like dark horse candidate for like a super fun game that people get really into.
Yeah.
And play
especially because it's on Game Pass, so people will actually check it out.
Yeah, I do think having it day one Game Pass will be like a huge boon for this, because like otherwise I 100% would not play this. But if it's gonna come to Game Pass, I'll take a flyer on it. I'll download it and try it out. But
yeah,
unless people on Twitch and YouTube are streaming it and playing it, and it gets this like really big wave of like good word of mouth, that would be maybe something that would get me to check it out otherwise. But like, again, if it's coming to Game Pass, you might as well.
Yeah. You're a big Wild Hearts stan.
So I've fallen off a little bit Wild Hearts lately, and some of that's because like I'm stuck on the final boss, and I got to a point where I was like, well, maybe I should upgrade my weapon, but like the skill tree I'm going down with my katana for upgrades requires me to do this like really difficult fight against a bird. It's sort of like one of the story fights is against this big, very difficult bird that you have to fight. And I beat it because I moved on past that. But like there's a side quest that has you fight it again. And I think once you complete that, you maybe can do like the normal style hunts where you can just like specifically target that bird. But I've been like continually failing to either beat the final boss or this bird again to like upgrade my weapon. And so I've been a little bit like stumped as far as like progressing. And so I have a little bit fallen off of it, but they're adding some free DLC that'll include some new monsters and some new quests. And that was my big question, was like, what is the long tail of this game going to look like? And it seems like they do want to support it. So they announced, obviously, new stuff that came out this week as we're recording this. And then March 23rd, they're going to have another, like a wolf subspecies, they were calling it. That's going to come with some new quests and armor and all of that stuff. And then in April, they're going to have some new kimono and some new karakuri to use. So they do seem to be supporting a lot. My big thing is I also saw on Reddit people have been a little bit complaining about how difficult like the volatile hunts are, which I believe is like the in-game stuff. You only have one life basically, whereas in normal hunts you can die 3 times, which in my case with these difficult fights that I've been stuck on, typically like all 3 of us will go down at once, and that's it. And it ends up being like you only had 1 life. But so the difficulty is the fact that you only have 1 life, and so you basically can't screw up. And so yeah, I haven't gotten far enough to try out any of those. But I also don't know how that compares to Monster Hunter, because it's been too long since I played Monster Hunter World. Yeah. But I don't know. There's so many other games out that once I got stuck, I was a little bit like, well, let me just go play some other stuff for a while. But I might come back to this. I still like it. I still enjoyed it. And maybe I will eventually push through. And it'll be nice to have some new stuff to play as well. But
well, speaking of new games, did you ever play City Skylines back in the day?
I never did. No.
I don't really get down with sim games. Was never a Sims guy. I never really played SimCity. I did play Roller Coaster Tycoon back in the day a bunch.
Oh yeah. So I'm the same way. I was never a SimCity guy, but I loved Roller Coaster Tycoon.
I bought City Skylines back in the day because a lot of people I was streaming were playing that I watched were playing it, and I really liked it. I played it for a good amount of time. I don't know what my like Steam number of hours played is, but it was fun. It was like a very chill. It was a response to or a game that you could play instead of when they tried to reboot SimCity and it like totally bombed. There was a SimCity that came out where it was just like you had to have an online connection. Their main thing was like, oh, it's going to be multiplayer. But it kind of wasn't multiplayer. It just needed an internet connection, and it was like full of microtransactions, and people hated it. And it like, I don't even know if you can buy it anymore. You probably can, but people were not into it. And a solution to that was to turn your head slightly to the left and see that City Skylines is also available and also cheap. And I bought it, and it was very fun. You can just like make a little town. I would usually play it without goals in mind. I could kind of just like create things and see what I would do. It had some interesting systems, and you could like zoom in real close and see your city and stuff, and it was really cool. It had a ton of DLC. They've continued to support City Skylines for years and years and years. Like, there's been so much content for it. It's crazy now. Like, if you look at its Steam page, it's just a huge litany of things. It's always on sale on Steam as well. Also, there's City Skylines VR, which seems very cool to me, where you can like build your city around you. I think that'd be very fun to do. But they announced this week City Skylines 2, which supposedly has very interesting systems. They've iterated on their economy system, as well as City Skylines 1 had a lot of things that you could kind of hack around, like to make a roundabout, to make a really big roundabout, you kind of had to like cheat the system a little bit and do it yourself in a certain way. Maybe that's not the case now. Maybe there's been DLC that's made roundabouts easier to implement. But they've redone all of their systems, I think. And City Skylines 2 is going to be... I actually don't know what it's going to be. There's no gameplay in this trailer they released. It's just a cinematic. But I'm very interested to see what this is. I don't really... Yeah, like I said, I don't really play sim games. But if this is well received, I might dive back into City Skylines 2 and check it out.
Yeah, I don't know if it's my type of game, but maybe it is worth checking out if it's that much better than SimCity.
It was very fun back in the day. I remember spending hours and hours building a little town because it had interesting systems. Even the old one had interesting systems where like you had to figure out a way for trash to go somewhere, and you couldn't initially start with like renewable energy stuff, which doesn't generate pollution. So like part of your zone just had to be like the industrial zone. And I think that eventually there are ways to remediate that. And I also think there's been DLCs that have incorporated new interesting ways to deal with things. But they decided to just like stop doing DLCs and start doing a new game. So I wonder if there are things that they wanted to change, like fundamental things they wanted to change from the original that now they're going to be able to do in SimCity or City Skylines 2. So this is something to look out for. I don't know when we'll get gameplay of this. I actually don't know who owns this studio or if they're still independent. But yeah. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about, Fortnite has gone cyberpunk, Zach.
Yeah, I'm just looking at a trailer now. I hadn't seen this.
They have added they've added 4 new like regions to the map of Fortnite. I don't know if there's like a name for that map. But there's a mega city is the biggest one. And then there's like a little Japanese village and then 2 other places that are like inspired by like cyberpunk stuff. But it seems cool. And also they have been pumping out anime integrations. So they had the Dragon Ball Z one, obviously. They had Naruto. I think there's another one that I'm forgetting. But the one they're just adding right now with this new season is Attack on Titan. And I think you get the gear that lets you like shoot cables out and fly around, which is very interesting. I still have Fortnite installed on my computer, even though I haven't really played it since I dove in that time to check out just like what it was all about. But this is interesting, and I think I might dive in and take a look at it.
Yeah, I think I also have Fortnite installed on like everything. I think I have it installed on my Switch, my PS5, and my PC. But I only ever play it maybe once a year when I'm like hanging out with my brother, and he's like the only game we can play because it's the only one that we both have access to is Fortnite.
Yeah.
So, speaking of like, we just talked about Wild Hearts. There's you might be interested. There's like a 2-bladed weapon that you can use, like where you have 2 blades, and you like shoot a grapple into the enemy and you like whip around them in very Attack on Titan style. But yeah, this looks, the Fortnite stuff, going back to it, just watching the cyberpunk stuff, it does look kind of cool actually, and
it
like,
makes me want to dip in a little bit.
Everything.
Yeah, there's like cool neon everywhere, and there's like big cyber cars you can drive. I will say, when I dove into it initially, the like season or whatever that I dove into was kind of not to my taste. It was a little bit like fantasy, like there were knights and castles and stuff, which is fine, and I'm, that's a viable thing to be. But for whatever reason, it just like, I wasn't really a world I wanted to be in. Whereas this is something that I would definitely want to check out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe one of these days, you and I will try out some Fortnite together. But
perhaps it will be in the mega city.
It might be, if and when that happens. Do we want to talk about what we've been playing and watching? Because I've been playing a lot of stuff.
I have only been watching something I want to talk about, but let's get into what you've been playing and watching.
Well, first off, I should note that I finished PsychOdyssey.
Wow.
And it's very good. And it is like, it's long. It's very interesting to see like the behind the scenes of like a game being made and just sort of the personal struggles that people go through. Not just in dealing with other people on the project, but also just like in making a game happen. And like, if you've been following MinMax, they pumped out content regarding PsychOdyssey over the last few weeks. We're doing interviews with like Tim Schafer and like the production team behind the documentary, and just like, doing multiple conversations where like Ben Hansen would talk to people like Jason Schreier and some other like indie developers and just different people talking about like this massive documentary and how crazy it is that it even exists and all of that. So that stuff feels like kind of required reading if you do end up watching PsychOdyssey. Like, go check out that content just to like decompress from everything you just saw. Basically, if they were to ever like produce PsychOdyssey on like Blu-ray or something, like a box set that you could get, the MinMax stuff needs to be added as like supplemental material that you can watch along with it. But so that was very interesting to check out over the last week or two. And then I finally got Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope's Tower of Doom DLC working.
Yeah, so what did you have to do to get it to actually unlock?
I don't know if they pushed out an update that like fixed everything, but I talked about how I had followed sort of the support channel and people were talking about it, and somebody dropped in there that the fix for it was to take the cart out of the Switch, delete the game files, obviously not your save file, but just the game itself, and then put the cart back in and sort of re-download the updates. And then you would have to like go into the eShop and to your profile and like re-download the DLC from there. And once you've done that, it just started working. So basically you just have to remove the files and re-download them, and it suddenly made it work. So so that I've jumped into a little bit of that. It is like the Tower of Doom stuff is like the perfect sort of addition to a game like this, because we were talking about last week about how I had been listening to the soundtrack a lot, and I was like, I should play more of that game. I really liked it. And like without this DLC, like I didn't want to just play the game over again. So like it's nice to just have sort of a standalone mode that you can go into that's like quickly gets you into the battles, and like there's still those like progression hooks of like every time you complete a battle, you can like you've maybe added a new character to your group, or you've added like another spark, and you can like level everything up, and you can still like sort of swap your teammates out for each battle. And so you go, I think there are 10 floors that you're supposed to go up, and like obviously they get progressively a little bit more difficult, but also you have like on each floor, you have the option between 2 or 3 different levels that you can choose to take on. And each of those will have like different rewards. And like maybe you'll want to pick the one that will give you a new character along with some other upgrade materials, or maybe you want the one that will give you like a new spark or 2 that you can use. So it's stuff like that. And there are 3 different difficulty modes. There's like easy, normal, and hard. I'm playing on normal, and I've made it like 7 or 8 floors up. I haven't quite finished a run just yet, but I also am very curious to find out if it's going to be completely run based, where every time you start the tower over again, you start from ground zero, or if you like some of that stuff carries over, so I'll be curious to see how that works. But it's just kind of fun to get back into that game and do those battles again. And it's the kind of thing that you can like pop in and, do a battle in like 10 minutes or so. Some of them take a little bit longer, but it's just cool to be able to get back in there and because I like the battle system quite a bit. So it was fun to revisit. And then I also jumped into the Return to Castlevania stuff from Dead Cells, which was another recent drop.
Yeah, how is that? How do you initiate it?
It's very cool. Well, the problem is, so I guess when you like first start, they're like, okay, here's the Castlevania stuff. You do a little bit have to go through like the first area, and then you can go to the castle, and it's like you get in there and you start getting some of those drops from like because they added a bunch of like weapons and different items you can get from that are like Castlevania themed, and I think I've heard that it's not going to be every time that you can get to the castle. It's just like the first time they're like, oh yeah, here you go, castle time, go. And you eventually go through and you fight Death, which is a character, and that was a very difficult fight. I'm definitely using the assist mode features to get through some of this, but because I'm not very good at Dead Cells, but I am enjoying it. But I've also heard that you have to complete a lot of the other content, and like I listened to the MinMax show this week, and Kyle Hilliard was talking about it, and his complaint was that they don't make it as easy as it should be to just play the Castlevania stuff, because like obviously it's the new content and it's Castlevania themed, so people just want to like get in there and play the Castlevania stuff, and you do have to play some of the other content as well. And he wishes they would have made it a separate mode entirely, where it was just like the Dead Cells formula, but specifically solely within the Castlevania stuff. And so that is a little bit of a bummer to hear. I'm still a little bit working my way through some of it, and I like completed the fight against Death, and then the next like areas I saw were like places that were already existing in Dead Cells. So I did have to go through an area I had already been through before, which is a little bit of a bummer. But there's like a new once you defeat Death, you unlock this like Death Scythe weapon that I hear is very cool and very powerful, because when you defeat enemies with it, you get these like orbs that or maybe like it makes, I don't even know how it works, but it's like, it seems like a very cool weapon. I was watching somebody play it earlier this last week, and they were like, man, this weapon is maybe the coolest one they've added yet. So also like having the sort of Dead Cell style like adaptation of the Castlevania music is also very cool. So like there's I think there was like 60 Castlevania tracks added to the game or something like that. So the music's very cool. But yeah, it's just like a game that feels really good to play, and so it's cool to be back into it. And I've been playing it a little bit on Steam Deck, which is a great Steam Deck game. So I recommend that if you haven't played Dead Cells in a long time, or if you haven't played it at all. It's like there's kind of a lot of content for it now. And
yeah, they keep pushing stuff out to it.
Yeah, everybody's sort of making the case that with this, they should just let Motion Twin make a Castlevania game.
That's a good idea.
Which I would be into. But I think there is also separately a mode that you can unlock. I'm not sure how you do it, but I think it gives you this Richter mode is what it's called. And it's supposed to be basically like Symphony of the Night. But I'm very excited to try that, but I don't know how you access it. So I need to do some research and figure that out. But yeah. Anyway, this is definitely the biggest addition they've had for Dead Cells, and it's probably the coolest one as well. But also, I mean, you can always play as the Hollow Knights use his weapon in it.
That is very cool.
They do have so much stuff. They have Hyperlight Drifter stuff in there as well.
Oh, man.
I don't know what you're waiting for, but you definitely should check out Dead Cells.
I need to. Yeah, I know.
And then I also started Like a Dragon Ishin. I'm not very far in. I've only played through maybe the first chapter or two, but I liked Yakuza Like a Dragon quite a bit. That one's obviously the turn-based one, and this one is not. And I believe it is a remaster of like a Japan exclusive PS3 Yakuza game that was like a spin-off. It's like based on like real history and real people. Mm-hmm. But it's like starring the cast of the Yakuza games, which is a strange thing, but it's been cool to dip into. And it just reminded me how much I like their style of games. Cause like, I mean, the first hour or so is a lot of cutscene and story setup and like a little bit of tutorial, but you have like a handful of different stances. Like you have your bare fists, you have just a sword, you have just a gun, and then you have a sword and a gun. And they sort of each kind of fulfill their own niche. So like if you're in a one-on-one fight against like maybe a boss, you just want the sword because you can block and stuff like that with it. But as you're just like running around the town that you're in and you like encounter a bunch of those like random roaming bad guys that you ran into all the time in Yakuza Like a Dragon, you probably want the gun and the sword because you move a lot faster and it's like a good like crowd control thing, but you don't have like power attacks basically. So it's been interesting to learn. I wasn't sure if I would like the more action sort of brawler style combat, but I'm like learning it and I do think it's fun. And there's like a bunch of like each one of those stances has their own sort of skill tree to like level up into. So it's been fun to dip into that. I hear that it's relatively short at around like 20 hours if you're just mainlining the story.
That's surprising to me. Usually those Yakuza games are super long.
Well, so if you try to 100% it, if you do all the side stuff and you're like really going for like the completionist version of it, I hear it is closer to like 140 hours. So like it's sort of take your pick. Do you want the short version or the long version?
Yeah, really.
But yeah, so there is a lot of content to it if you want it, but also if you just want to mainline it, it's relatively short. So, but it's a cool game. I kind of am enjoying it. I need to play more of it. Obviously, I've not played very long, but it is one that I think maybe we even drop it on the top 10 builder, assuming that I'm going to play more of this. And as we do with these, I'll just drop it ahead of Hi-Fi Rush. And then we'll figure it out from there as we go. Should we drop like does a DLC count?
You're talking about the Return to Castlevania?
Yeah.
I would say it's new content. I'm fine with that.
I'm gonna drop that on there too.
Above Hi-Fi Rush?
Probably. It may not. I mean, a lot of these may not even stay on the list by the end of the year, but for now, it's fun to. We're still not at 10 games yet, so we got to fill out this list. There. Yeah, exactly.
So I've only been watching stuff. I've still been playing Metroid off and on, but I did hit a little bit of a difficulty wall. It wasn't a difficulty wall. I just died after having done a ton of stuff, and I didn't save, and that was very frustrating. So I just stopped playing it for a while.
That also happened to me. So we were texting a little bit about it, but I had gone through an area where there was a bunch of enemies I had to fight, and I got the like visor upgrade that made it so you can see in the dark basically, or you just have like the heat map basically. And I was like just outside the save room, and something I didn't see hit me and killed me, and I was like, now I have to do all of that over again. And
getting upgrades should save the game for you, and it's crazy that it doesn't.
Yeah.
But as far as things I've been watching, I didn't put this in the show notes, but I did catch up on Last of Us last night. We were like 2 episodes behind. That's still great. They're doing the season finale this weekend. So that'll be interesting to see if they There's been rumor that it might diverge slightly from the story, which would be interesting. I don't know what they would do to diverge from it, but...
Have they already done the time jump?
What's time jump?
The one where you suspected that they would end in the winter.
I was wrong about that. They are going to do the whole game, yeah.
Okay.
And it's kind of crazy how true to the game they've been. Like they've gotten every beat of the game, sometimes beat for beat, as well as adding more stuff that I don't think contradicts anything from the game's canon. But it's been great. I still don't know if I'm going to watch season 2 because I don't. Yeah. I just can't handle. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, but I can't handle watching Joel die IRL.
This is why I have stopped. Like, I watched the first episode and that was it. Because I know where it's going, and I like, what's the point? I played the first game, so I know what happens. So it's not like I need to find out where, these characters are going. I know where they're going, and I don't like where it goes, so I don't want to really watch it.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if they do like a crazy reversal of the finale of season 1, but I guess we'll see what happens.
Because do you think the show would really be that confident moving forward without Pedro Pascal?
I mean, I would love for him to not die in the show, so I hope that they would not do that. Because
obviously he's the biggest name draw for the show.
I think what we would get if they do move forward with it is we would get a lot more flashbacks of the time in between the first game and the second game, and he would mostly live in flashbacks, I think. So he would still be a part of the show.
I guess it would be like a very Game of Thrones move, like kill Sean Bean at the end of the first season, but yeah, I don't know.
The other thing that I watched, Attack on Titan is confusing to explain the ending of it, because it's been the final season of Attack on Titan for years. And they keep saying like, well, there's going to be another part to the final season. Well, the another part is now going to be 2 parts. Well, the second part of the 2 parts is now going to be 2 movies, basically. But it's finally ending this year, and they released the first part of part 3 of the second part. Oh my gosh. Basically. But basically, there was an hour-long episode that came out, I think last week, that I finally got around to watching this week. And it was good. I haven't read the comics or anything, so I don't know what's going to happen. But it remains very interesting and cool, and I don't know where it's going. And the animation is top quality, and everything about it is great. Except for it is very sad, but I still, for some reason, love it. So Attack on Titan eventually will be a wonderful show to watch the entirety of, but right now you can only watch up until the penultimate episode, which I think is happening sometime in August or September, and it's going to be an extra long finale episode. But it's great, and I think that's also why they're adding Eren Yeager to Attack on Titan right now, or to Fortnite, because they had this big thing that happened. But other than those 2 things, you know what else I watched is I rewatched The Batman with Robert Pattinson this week.
Oh, really?
And I like that movie, I think.
Yeah, I think I like that movie too.
It's very long. I couldn't watch it all in the same time because I started watching it and then I had to go to bed, and I watched it the next day. I finished it. But I think it did a lot of cool things, and I liked the way it was shot. And I think it was a good Batman movie.
It was, and crazy that they're immediately going different directions.
Yeah. That's an Elseworlds now. Now that James Gunn is in charge, it's going to be... Which, have you seen those pictures from the new Joker movie? The sets that they're filming right now in New York?
No, I didn't even know they were making one.
You didn't? You know who... you don't know about the second Joker movie?
Is it still starring Joaquin Phoenix?
Yes. Who do you think is playing Harley Quinn? Don't look it up.
Oh, gosh. I have no idea.
Lady Gaga.
What?
And I think there's going to be musical elements.
Well, I guess there would have to be.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
I don't know. I didn't watch the first one because this is another situation where I thought it would be too sad. I think I would maybe watch the second one where he is the Joker, but I think there was too much in the first one where he wasn't the Joker yet, and he was just like mentally ill and having a bad time, and that is not something I'm interested in looking at.
There was a lot of that. I did watch it, and it probably is a good movie.
I'm interested in when he comes into himself and realizes like, oh, I can be chaotic. But that first part, where everyone is being mean to him, I don't want to see.
I don't know. I don't know what the perfect version of the Joker is, where it's like he is kind of comical and over the top, but like which do fans want? Like, which version do they want? But
they don't want Jared Leto, that's for sure.
Well, 100% they don't want Jared Leto. That's for sure.
I do think, I mean, it's hacky to say, but I do think that Heath Ledger's Joker did hit that perfect pitch where he was like scary, but also, and a great thing they did about his version of the Joker is he didn't have an origin story. They just like couldn't figure out who he was. He just appeared.
I think that's better. Maybe that's why I had a little, like, I didn't have issues with the Joaquin Phoenix one. I just, like I could see that, yeah, this is probably a good movie. I just don't really care about it. Like, I wasn't that into it for some reason. And I think
really
it
want to
is
see what
because
the second one is.
I think it is a little bit because he's the kind of character that you almost don't want to have the full picture. Like, you don't want all the background.
Yeah.
It's a little like, it's a thing in movies where if they have a character that does really well, they're like, oh, we got to explore this background. We got to really flesh this character out. And a lot of the times that's a mistake. Like, you don't need to do that. And a lot of times it is detrimental to the character to give us too much information about them. And sometimes it is better to just like let some things be mysterious about them. And that is a little bit of the draw for certain characters. And I think in some cases that's like for the Joker, that it serves him a little bit better to just have a lot of mystery about him that you don't know or understand.
You did see a snippet of a Joker in Robert Pattinson's Batman. He's like, you don't see his full face. I think he has like elephantitis or something in that universe, or like some sort of crazy degenerative skin disease where his like face is all messed up. Like hair is falling out, and he's like,
I don't know what the DC strategy is. So, like,
they have one now.
Is the Pattinson one not at all related to the Joaquin Phoenix
not
Joker
at all.
movie?
Not at all.
And
totally
then they
separate.
were trying to set up an additional one with Pattinson, but that's probably dead now. But they're doing another Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie, but that may not be related to what James Gunn is doing.
It's not.
I don't understand.
So there's two zones basically. With I watched a whole video where some guy like laid it out, but basically there's the main line which has not started yet. I think is maybe going to start with the Flash movie, but everything else is just what they're calling Elseworlds. So it all exists in the same multiverse, but like TV shows are their own deal. And they can do one-offs that don't exist in like the main line, the main story. Their version of the Infinity Saga, which I believe is going to start with the Flash, I think. But I think it's not going to take place in the universe that the Flash is from. I think he's going to go to a universe, and that's going to be our new like start at zero universe. But yeah, I think there is going to be another Matt Reeves Batman, but that's going to be separate and possibly could come in via a like multiverse scenario in the future. But like Joaquin Phoenix Joker and Matt Reeves Batman, I don't believe are ever going to meet. They're totally separate and totally separate universes, and they're both also completely separate from the new mainline thing, which is mapped out and I think correctly being like mapped out from the beginning, like they did with Avengers. So it will hopefully have some like continuity and won't just be like a bunch of mush like the current DC movies.
It won't be them trying to rush to an Avengers competitor before they've established any of the previous characters.
So crazy how much that was bad.
That's like what Xbox did in their naming convention, where they were like, you know, they got a PS3 out. We can't call this Xbox 2. Then people will be confused and think we're like a generation behind them. So we need to put a 3 in there somewhere. Let's make it Xbox 360. And then they reversed that for the next generation and they went Xbox One.
360 I think was solid. Maybe it's just because I owned it, but I didn't mind saying 360. But Xbox One was a crazy misstep. Like it's just very confusing. And then to have it be called Xbox Series, a bunch of things like old people aren't going to figure that out if they like go to the store to try to buy that for their grandkids. Like that's needlessly confusing.
Yeah, if they were going to be like, we are number-wise, since we started later than PlayStation, we can't keep up with their number. We need to, like, come up with a creative name for everything. Like, do what Nintendo was doing. They were coming up with different names that made sense, but...
Even, like, wasn't the code name for it something like Xbox Scarlet or something? Even that would have been better.
That's the thing. Even their code names that get released are people know about are better than the final name for the console.
The series naming scheme, I think, is a misstep. But now that I finally understand it, I at least can point to the thing and be like, this is this. But I don't know. It's a learning curve, and your brand should not be a learning curve. I don't know a lot about brand management, but
especially if they have to drop the Series S because it's not powerful enough.
Yeah, then it's just
like
the Xbox.
Then you just have
It's so much words to write. Also, like it's not concise at all.
Yeah, it's not good.
Here's my parting wisdom.
Like just a year would have been better.
Here's my parting wisdom: is don't do that, Xbox.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this, stop doing that.
Stop doing what you're doing with your naming convention and start over again. Go back to the drawing board.
Call it like Xbox like Quartz or something, or like Xbox Obsidian or something cool. But don't call it like, don't have a thing where you have to write 3 different words on a piece of paper. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Definitely make it more concise. That is for sure. And on that note...
On that heated note...
Why don't you go ahead and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at Starside Cafe. Leave this podcast a review on your podcast app of choice, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.